From Hitler's nephew fighting against Adolf Hitler during World War II, and a one-eyed, one-handed soldier who survived being shot in the face, through the skull, hip, leg, ankle, and ear, and who also survived a plane crashes and prisoner of war camps, to World War II causing the development of Nutella due to the newly found lack and scarcity of chocolate. In this video, we'll talk about 50 unbelievable World War II facts that you've probably never heard before. Number 50. The war cost about $21 trillion. Though the war lasted for 4 years, World War II was the most expensive war in history. The total financial cost was estimated at $1.3 trillion, equivalent to $21 trillion in 2023. Number 49. Hitler's nephew fought against him. William Hitler, the half-nephew of Adolf Hitler, served in the United States Navy against his uncle during World War II. He was English-born. He later moved to Germany to work for his half-uncle before emigrating to the United States, where he received American citizenship besides his British citizenship, and ended up serving in the United States Navy against his half-uncle and Germany during World War II. William changed his surname to Stuart Houston after leaving the Navy. Number 48. President Franklin D Roosevelt popularized the World War II. President Franklin D Roosevelt popularized labeling the conflict the Second World War, using the term publicly in 1941. While Roosevelt may have helped popularize the name, it seems he wasn't entirely satisfied with it. In 1942, he asked the public to propose alternate appellations, and over the next few weeks, the War Department received 15,000 submissions. Number 47. The Bavarian word Nazi means simple-minded. Journalist Conrad Hayden first used it as a term of derision. Nazi is a short form of National Socialist, National Socialist. A homonymic term Nazi was in use before the rise of the National Socialist German Workers' Party, NSDAP, in Bavaria as a pet name for Ignaz, and a derogatory word for a backward peasant, which may have influenced the use of that abbreviation by the Nazis' opponents, and its avoidance by the Nazis themselves. Number 46. Death toll. During the Siege of Leningrad, more Russians died during the Siege of Leningrad than all American and British soldiers combined in WW2. The Siege of Leningrad was a prolonged military blockade undertaken by the Axis powers against the Soviet city of Leningrad, present-day St. Petersburg. Of Leningrad's 2.5 million inhabitants on the eve of the conflict, only 600,000 were still alive in the city when it was liberated by the Red Army on the 27th of January, 1944, around 1 million having been evacuated before and during the siege. Number 45. Germanization. During World War II, around 200,000 ethnic Polish children and an unspecified number of children of other ethnicities were abducted from their homes and forcibly transported to Nazi Germany for forced labor, medical experimentation, or Germanization. The Nazis believed that they were the descendants of German settlers who had emigrated to Poland. Number 44. Japanese Holdouts. Many Japanese soldiers had been stationed on islands across the Pacific Ocean during the war. Even after the war was over, they refused to surrender, as most of them did not know that Japan had surrendered. These islands were called Japanese Holdouts. One such soldier was Hiroo Onoda, who refused to surrender for 29 years on an isolated island. Number 44. Southern Effect. People forget South America's contribution to World War II. During the 8 months of the Italian campaign, the Brazilian Expeditionary Force took 20,573 Axis prisoners, including 2 generals, 892 officers, and 19,679 other ranks. During the war, Brazil lost 948 of its own men killed in action across all 3 services. Thousands of South American countries helped in supplies, and sometimes, the Latin soldiers joined the Free French forces to fight against the Nazis. Number 43. World War II. Didn't start for everyone in 1939. Contrary to popular belief, World War II started at different times, depending on where you lived. Much of Europe saw the war began in 1939 with the invasion of Poland, but the US didn't enter the war until 1941. For China and Japan, the war began in 1937 and continued until 1945. Some historians have even argued that World War II was merely a phase in a conflict that started in 1914. So, when did the war start? It depends on whom you ask. Number 42. The Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor on Sunday. The Japanese didn't attack Pearl Harbor on a Sunday by chance. Commander Mitsuo Fuchida of the Imperial Japanese Army attacked on the traditional day of rest because the Japanese believed the Americans would be less alert. And in their eyes, it worked. Fuchida called out "Tora, Tora, Tora" to show that the attack was successful. Number 41. 1 soldier versus 100. During the brutal campaign to liberate the Philippines from the Japanese, American soldier John R. McKinney became a war hero. On the early morning of May 11, 1945, McKinney and his unit in the Philippines were attacked by the Japanese. McKinney, alone in his hiding spot, fought back using his rifle until he ran out of bullets. He then used his knife and fists. When the fight was over, he had defeated over 100 Japanese soldiers, but his heroic actions have been mostly forgotten by many. Number 41. Cannibals. Almost ate a future president. One of the strangest yet weirdly fun facts about World War II is how future President George H.W. Bush almost died. After being shot down during an air raid over Japan, he was picked up by the Allies. The other men were not so lucky. His comrades were tortured and killed, and some were eaten by Japanese soldiers. Number 40. The Famous Bluff. During the war, British and American air raids reduced German cities to rubble. Near the Swiss border, the German city of Constance played the ultimate game of bluff. Rather than enforcing a blackout, they kept their lights on at night. It worked, and Allied pilots ignored it, assuming it was a Swiss town. Number 39. The Unbreakable Soldier Sir Adrian Carton de Weert was a one-eyed, one-handed war hero who fought in 3 major conflicts across 6 decades, surviving plane crashes and prisoner of war camps. This British soldier served in the Boer War, World War I, and World War II. He was shot in the face, losing his left eye, and was also shot through the skull, hip, leg, ankle, and ear. Number 38. The ship that sank twice. It sounds like a superhero story, but it is true. The SMS Wien, a vessel of the Austro-Hungarian Navy, was one of 3 Monarch-class coastal defense ships built in the 1890s. It took part in the international blockade of Crete during the Greco-Turkish War of 1897, where it was torpedoed by the Italians. In the 1920s, the Italians took it from the seafloor and turned it into a military hospital. It was once again destroyed in World War II. Number 37. Nazi Germany tried to build a sun gun. Funny as that sounds, it was a fact. Nazi Germany was the pioneer of rocketry. As part of Hitler's fantasized miracle weapons to turn the tide, German scientists looked into building a sun gun. The sun gun was designed to magnify sunlight to burn cities and boil the world's oceans. These plans were based on the ideas of the German scientist Hermann Oberth. It was abandoned after it was figured it would take more than a century to build. Number 36. Poland's fighting bear. A Syrian brown bear, Wojtek, became a private, later corporal, in the Polish II Corps, 3,522 Company. He served among the remnants of the Polish army fighting in Italy in 1943 and 1944. He carried heavy ammunition boxes, mixed with the men, and regularly drank beer in the evenings. After the war, Wojtek lived out his days in Edinburgh Zoo. Number 35. A case of work stress. Heinrich Himmler was a Schutzstaffel leader and a monster. Yet, one satisfyingly fun fact about him during World War II is that when the chips were down, he was next to useless. He was given command of Army Group Vistula in January 1945, a force of 500,000 men tasked with pushing back the Soviets. The appointment so stressed Himmler that he immediately checked into a spa, brought a personal masseuse onto his command staff, and only worked for about 4 hours per day without going to the front line a single time. Number 34. Hitler, a drug addict. Hitler was a notorious health anxious and hired several well-known quack doctors to attend to most of his imagined ailments. From 1941 until the end of the war, Hitler spent most of his days high on various opiates and cocaine that were prescribed to him. And that was not all. Much of the Third Reich leadership followed his lead, including Hermann Göring, who was addicted to morphine. Number 33. Japan and Russia. Never signed a peace treaty. The war between Japan and Russia ceased with a ceasefire rather than a peace treaty. Russia was the only nation Japan refused to sign a peace treaty with. When the West embraced the newly democratized Russia in the 1990s, Japan remained hesitant and was the least enthusiastic country among the group of seven, G7 partners, when Russia joined the framework in 1998, making it the G8. Today's ongoing dispute over the Kuril Islands continues to block a formal signing ceremony even now. Number 32. The Islamic Ticket to Jewish Freedom, Si Kadour Bengabret, founder and rector of the Grand Mosque of Paris, issued certificates to Jews to provide them with an Islamic identity. The mosque was a community center and could provide fake Muslim IDs to Jews and hide their children among their own. The underground tunnels and cellars under the mosque delivered those escaping to the banks of the Seine. Number 31. The man who escaped death twice. Yamaguchi was in Hiroshima on business for his employer Mitsubishi Heavy Industries when the city was bombed at 8:15 a.m. on the 6th of August, 1945. He returned to Nagasaki the following day, and despite his wounds, he returned to work on the 9th of August, the day of the second atomic bombing. On March 24, 2009, the government of Japan officially recognized his presence in Hiroshima 3 days earlier. He died of stomach cancer on the 4th of January 2010, at 93. Number 30. Falling from death. British tail gunner Nicholas Alcamaide was shot at while flying. The airman's plane was going to crash, and he was forced to abandon it before it hit the ground. Unfortunately, Alcamaide had no time to put on a parachute and fell from 18,000 feet. Amazingly, Alcamaide not only survived, but walked away with nothing more than a sprained knee. Alcamaide then became something of a celebrity and met several Luftwaffe officers who wanted to hear about his miraculous jump. However, this did not earn him any special treatment, and like any other captured Allied airman, he was sent to the notorious prison camp Stalag Luft III. Number 29. The Resistance of Paris. During the war, not all forms of resistance were violent and bloody. When Paris fell in 1940, a strong resistance movement spread across France. In one of the pettiest acts of resistance of the war, resistance fighters cut the cables to the Eiffel Tower's elevator, forcing the Nazi occupiers to climb the stairs. Number 28. The birth of fantasy drink. As much as you enjoy Fanta today, you may know that it was invented by the Coca-Cola Company. You may not know that this orange-colored drink was invented by Nazi Germany, right in the middle of the war. Making use of whatever ingredients were available, Coca-Cola made this now famous drink, which became the pride of the Germans and was consumed by everyone, soldiers and civilians alike. Number 26. Allied forces wreaked havoc too. On a morning of September 1944, the people of Normandy woke up in shock. Despite the German offer to evacuate civilians, Le Havre and its inhabitants had been crushed under British bombs in the deadliest bombardment conducted over France during WW2. The Allies dropped 500,000 tons of explosives on France. This represented more than the total of what the Germans dropped on the UK during the Blitz, and with their V-weapons. Number 25. The British sunk French ships. Despite being allies during both world wars, one of the little-known facts about WW2 is that the British Royal Navy destroyed a portion of the French Navy. Weeks after the fall of France, the port of Mers el-Kebir was blockaded by a detachment of the Royal Navy. Trapped in shallow waters, the British attack killed 1,300 French naval personnel and knocked 2 of the 4 ships out of commission. Thankfully, the French scuttled the rest of the fleet in Toulon in 1942 when the Germans tried to take control of it. Number 24. Bombing of Schaffhausen in April 1944. Schaffhausen, which is located in northern Switzerland near the border with Germany, was not an intended target, as Switzerland was a neutral country during World War II. On April 1, 1944, a group of American B-24 Liberator bombers mistakenly targeted Schaffhausen during a bombing mission intended for a German industrial target. The pilots believed they were attacking the German city of Ludwigshafen, which was a significant industrial center for the Nazi war machine. Number 23. The Saving Cure. Nicknamed the Polish Schindler, Dr. Eugene Lazowski saved approximately 8,000 Jews from concentration camps by purposely injecting people with the cure for typhus. Thankfully, the vaccine led to the lucky recipients failing their health examinations and testing positive for the disease. The Nazis were so terrified of typhus that they quarantined the Jews, which helped them avoid the horrors of the concentration camps. Number 22. 300 remade during the Battle of Wisna. 720 Polish soldiers repeated history by holding off 42,200 soldiers and 350 tanks for 3 days in their fort. Although defeat was inevitable, the Polish defense stalled the attacking forces for 3 days and postponed the encirclement of independent operational group Naru, fighting nearby. Eventually, the tanks broke through the Polish line, and German engineers eliminated all the shelters one by one. The last shelter surrendered around midday on September 10, 1939. Number 21. Concentration camps came before the war. While the final solution did not enter the German mindset until 1942, the Nazis had significant experience with concentration camps. The major purpose of the earliest concentration camps during the 1930s was to incarcerate and intimidate the leaders of political, social, and cultural movements that the Nazis perceived to be a threat to the survival of the regime. The first Nazi concentration camp was Dachau, established in March 1933 near Munich. Number 20. The Tsunami Bomb. The United States and New Zealand tested a tsunami bomb. The tsunami bomb was an attempt to develop a tectonic weapon that could create destructive tsunamis. The project commenced after U.S. Navy officer E.A. Gibson noticed small waves generated by explosions used to clear coral reefs. The weapon's concept was deemed feasible, but the weapons themselves were never fully developed or used. Number 19. Sacred Apology. Although the United States was left almost untouched by the war, there were attempts to spread chaos and terror throughout the towns and cities of the country. Nobuo Fujita attempted to bomb the town of Brookings, Oregon during the war. In 1962, he was invited to return to the town, where he apologized and presented the town with his family's most prized possession, a 400-year-old katana sword. Fujita returned to the town several times in the years that followed, and he was named an honorary resident. Number 18. Britain's Nazi King Edward VIII, who abdicated to marry the love of his life, Wallis Simpson, was a well-known Nazi sympathizer. On one occasion, he argued the Blitz would end the war and bring peace. Rumor has it that if Britain was defeated, Hitler was set on the idea of returning King Edward VIII to the throne. Number 17. The Art of Camouflage. During the advance of the Japanese across Southeast Asia, the Dutch vessel the HNLMS Abraham Crenson became the only vessel of its class to escape the Java Sea to safety. The crew camouflaged the ship to disguise themselves as a tropical island. The ruse worked, and the Imperial Japanese Navy never suspected the island was, in fact, an entire warship. Number 16. The Amazons of the War. The USSR was the only major combatant to allow women to join the front lines of their regular army. Women in Russia served in many roles, including anti-aircraft gunners, fighter pilots, and snipers. Pilots Lydia Litviak and Yekaterina Budanova shot down dozens of German planes. Lyudmila Pavlichenko was also one of the most decorated sharpshooters of the war, recording 300 enemy kills. Pavlichenko became good friends with Eleanor Roosevelt. Number 16. This cat used all 9 lives. There was a German ship's cat during the Second World War who is said to have survived. Unsinkable Sam, also known as Oscar or Oscar, is the nickname of a ship's cat who purportedly served during World War II with both the Kriegsmarine and the Royal Navy, and survived the sinking of the Bismarck, HMS Cossack, and HMS Ark Royal. Number 15. Underwater transport. The war presented many new challenges, including transporting fuel. As Allied forces prepared to send armies and weapons into France and Belgium, they needed to come up with a safe and efficient fuel supply route. In 1942, an idea was proposed by Arthur Harley, chief engineer of the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, for a series of undersea pipelines running beneath the English Channel to deliver fuel to tanks, cars, and aircraft overseas. This method of transport is still used today and for many applications. Number 14. The Bouncing Bomb. On the 16th and 17th of May, 1943, the RAF No. 617 Squadron launched an attack on German dams, including the Möhne, Edersee, and Sorpe dams, causing catastrophic flooding of the Ruhr Valley and taking out several hydroelectric power stations. The squadron was later known as the Dam Busters, and the attack was successful thanks to the use of the bouncing bomb, the first of its kind, developed by English engineer Sir Barnes Wallis. Number 13. More than 51% of RAF bomber crews perished members of the British Royal Air Force. RAF Bomber Command had less than a 1 in 2 chance of survival during the war. Day and night flights over Europe were perilous, and aviation in combat was still a relatively new invention. Approximately 13% of crew members were captured, 12% died in training, and just 24% of pilots returned home without sustaining injury. Number 12. The carrot myth. Parents have told their children that eating carrots will help them improve their eyesight for generations. The myth actually originates from World War II. The British Army developed the new technology known as radar, helping pilots navigate and target at night. Rather than calling it radar, they referred to it as carrots. Number 11. Prophecy fulfilled. At the end of World War I, one French commander, Ferdinand Foch, declared that another war would come, rivaling WWI. He said this during the signing of the Treaty of Versailles. Almost 20 years later, WW2 came. Number 10. Hidden radio. One British prisoner of war received a handmade radio during his captivity. Naturally, he hid the radio well. So well, in fact, that the radio remained hidden for 60 years. The same POW retrieved the radio on a famous UK TV show called The Antiques Roadshow. Number 9. The kind interrogator Hans Scharf was not meant to be part of the German army, but was drafted when visiting Germany when the war broke out. His wife convinced a general to put him with interpreters instead of front lines, but through a series of coincidences, he became the lead interrogator for the Allied pilots Feld in France and Germany. His technique was unique in using kindness and friendly conversation to extract information. Scharf's technique was successful as the information was accurate and extensive. Number 8. The American 6888th. The American 6888th Central Postal Directory Battalion was the only all-female, all-black Army Corps overseas in WY2. This all-female squad, led by Major Charity Adams, were celebrities in Europe. The French people applauded them as they paraded through Paris, and they received first-class treatment at the luxurious hotel they were put in. African-American soldiers greeted them upon their arrival and helped them unload, unpack, and even made their beds for them, leaving cards with their names and units on the pillows. Number 7. The Ghost Army. The 23rd Headquarters Special Troop Soldier Unit used fakery and misinformation to deceive the enemy through the European theater. Full of artists, illustrators, and radio and sound guys plucked from New York and Philadelphia art schools in January 1944, the 100-man unit often pretended to be much larger groups with the use of 500-pound speakers that could be heard at a 15-mile radius. They sent fake radio transmissions to distract from actual missions, and deployed handmade blow-up tanks and fake observation planes to round out their schemes. They marked their tanks with chalk and sewed on fake patches to pretend to be other units and hide from enemy spies. Number 6. Stalins Falcons. Made up of only women, the 588th Night Bomber Regiment was trained for bombing missions behind German lines, flying 1,920 S-era planes built of wood and canvas with no radio or radar. Their bombs held to the wings by wire. This construction gave the planes the advantage of flying below the radar and surprising the enemy in the dead of night. Flying 15 to 18 missions per night each, their planes often returned, riddled with bullets. Number 5. The shortest soldier in the war captured the tallest Corporal Bob Roberts. 5 FT3 in Corporal captured a 7 FT6 in German soldier Jacob Nacken in the Battle for Normandy in 1944. Prior to the outbreak of war, Jacob Nacken was busy with the circus, traveling the country, and was billed as the giant from the Rhineland. Number 4. 12-year-old enlisted in the US Navy. Calvin Graham wasn't willing to join the Navy after the attack on Pearl Harbor. The 12-year-old Texan fooled the Navy into letting him enlist. Graham was sent off to basic training in San Diego, and while he didn't like it, he toughened it out. He shipped off to the Pacific and was wounded in 1942 at the Battle of Guadalcanal, and for his efforts was awarded the Bronze Star and the Purple Heart. Number 3. The Karl German weapon expert Karl Heinrich Emil Becker made the most powerful artillery gun used in the war, named Karl. It was mostly used against the Russians. It could shoot a 2.5-ton shell over 3 miles. Each shell was 24 inches wide and could go through 8 to 9 feet of solid concrete. Number 2. America's War Prophet. America's response to World War II was the most extraordinary mobilization of an idle economy in the history of the world. The war brought full employment and a fairer distribution of income. Blacks and women entered the workforce for the first time. Wages increased, so did savings. Number 1. The invention of Nutella. Due to rationing during WW II, the scarcity of chocolate led to the invention of Nutella. Italian baker Pietro Ferrero developed it in 1946 as a cheaper alternative to chocolate. The first jar of Nutella left the factory on April 20th, 1964. The rest, they say, is history.
World War II was a time of immense turmoil and upheaval, but amid the chaos and conflict, some truly incredible discoveries were made. These findings, ranging from groundbreaking technological advancements to astonishing archaeological treasures, shed light on human determination, even in the darkest of times. In this exploration, we will delve into the 20 most incredible discoveries from World War II. Number 20. Atomic Bomb. The atomic bomb is like no other bomb. The story starts with a bunch of really smart scientists from the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada teaming up for a top-secret project called the Manhattan Project. They wanted to figure out how to make a bomb using nuclear fission. Nuclear fission is like splitting atoms, and it releases a massive amount of energy. They tested their idea in July 1945 in New Mexico, and it worked. They called this test Trinity. After that, in August 1945, the United States dropped 2 atomic bombs on 2 cities in Japan, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. These bombings caused immense destruction and killed a huge number of people. It was really sad and made the world think about the consequences of using such a powerful weapon. The bombs made Japan surrender, ending World War II. But it also changed how countries acted on the global stage. They realized that having these bombs was super dangerous. It led to a time called the Cold War, where countries with atomic bombs were afraid of each other. They didn't want to use the bombs because it would mean disaster for everyone. Number 19. Penicillin mass production. Penicillin is a medicine that fights off harmful bacteria and helps people get better when they're sick. Before the war, there wasn't enough penicillin to help everyone who needed it, but some clever scientists figured out how to make a bunch at once. This was a game changer. They grew lots of tiny organisms called mold in big containers. These molds produced a substance that could be turned into penicillin. The scientists then carefully collected and processed this substance to make the medicine. With this new method, they could produce penicillin in large quantities. This was a breakthrough because it meant more soldiers and civilians could get the medicine they needed to fight infections and get well. The mass production of penicillin saved countless lives during the war and changed medicine forever. It showed how science and teamwork could make a big difference in helping people stay healthy and strong. Number 18. Jet propulsion. Before World War II, most planes used propellers, which are like big spinning blades at the front. They pushed the plane through the air. But then, scientists and engineers started working on a new idea: Jet engines. Jet engines are like super-fast air blowers. They suck in air, mix it with fuel, and then blow it out the back really fast. This action makes the plane move forward with great speed. It's like when you blow up a balloon and let it go, it zooms away. The Germans were the first to make jet-powered airplanes during the war. Their Messerschmitt Me 262 was one of the early jet planes. It was way faster than propeller planes and could outrun them easily. This was a big surprise for the Allied forces, but the Allies quickly caught up. The British made the Gloucester Meteor, and the Americans built the P-80 Shooting Star. These jets could chase down enemy planes and change the game of aerial warfare. After the war, jet engines didn't just stay in the sky. They found their way into passenger planes, making travel much faster and more accessible. They also helped with space exploration by powering rockets. Number 17. Radar. Radar stands for radio detection and ranging. It works in a fascinating way. It's like sending out invisible waves into the sky, similar to how you might shine a flashlight in the dark. These waves, which are actually radio waves, travel through the air until they hit an object, like an enemy plane. When they hit the plane, some waves bounce back, like a ball bouncing off a wall. A special machine called a radar antenna collects these bounced-back waves. It then processes the information from these waves to figure out important details about the object. It can determine how far away the object is, how fast it's moving, and even which direction it's heading. This is incredibly valuable information, especially during wartime. Imagine a dark night when enemy planes were flying toward your city. Without radar, you wouldn't see or know about them until it was too late. But with radar, you could detect those planes from a distance, giving you time to prepare and respond. It was like having a superpower to see in the dark. Radar had a massive impact during World War II. It helped the Allies detect incoming enemy aircraft, allowing them to scramble fighter planes to intercept them, or activate air raid sirens to alert civilians to seek shelter. This early warning system saved countless lives and helped protect cities from surprise attacks. Number 16. Guided missiles. Before guided missiles, most weapons required a lot of skill to aim accurately. Soldiers had to rely on their training and luck to hit their targets, but guided missiles changed all of that. These missiles were like smart rockets. They could follow a specific target, making them incredibly accurate. This meant that even if the enemy tried to dodge or hide, the missile could still find its mark. The development of guided missiles was a game changer. They could be used for both offense and defense. For example, anti-aircraft missiles could target enemy planes, while others could be used to attack enemy ships or even launch attacks on land. One of the most famous guided missiles of World War II was the German V-2 rocket. It was the world's first long-range guided missile and could travel at supersonic speeds. The V-2 rocket was a precursor to modern ballistic missiles and played a significant role in the war. Number 15. Sonar technology. It might sound like something from a science fiction movie, but during World War II, submarines played a big role in naval warfare. They could hide underwater, making them hard to detect. That's where the sonar came in. Sonar stands for sound navigation and ranging. It's like a secret weapon that uses sound waves to see underwater. Here's how it works. A ship or submarine sends out sound waves into the water. These sound waves bounce off objects underwater, like enemy submarines. Then, special equipment on the ship listens to the echoes of these sound waves. By measuring the time it takes for the sound to bounce back and the direction it comes from, sonar can create a detailed picture of what's below the surface. This technology was a game changer during World War II. It allowed ships to find and track enemy submarines, even when they were hidden beneath the waves. It made the seas safer for everyone and helped turn the tide of the war. Number 14. Duct tape. Duct tape, also known as duct tape back then, was originally developed for the military. It was created by a company called Johnson & Johnson, and it was intended to help the soldiers in the war. One of the fascinating things about duct tape is that it's made of a strong cloth material, like cotton or polyester, with a layer of adhesive on one side. This combination made it incredibly sturdy and sticky, making it perfect for many wartime applications. During World War II, duct tape was used to patch up holes in tents, repair damaged equipment, and even seal ammunition boxes to keep them safe from moisture. Its versatility was astounding. It could be used for a wide range of tasks. After the war, people realized just how handy duct tape could be. Its popularity soared as it found its way into homes, workshops, and garages all over the world. People used it for all sorts of things, from fixing leaky pipes to mending torn backpacks. Over time, duct tape came in various colors and became a symbol of creative problem solving. You might have heard of the phrase, "duct tape fixes everything," and it's pretty true. Number 13, the Enigma machine. The Enigma machine was a secret code-making and code-breaking device used by the Germans. The Enigma machine looked like a typewriter, but it was super smart. The Germans used the Enigma machine to send secret messages to their troops and commanders. These messages were like puzzles that needed to be solved. The Enigma machine made it really hard for the Allies, like the British and the Americans, to understand what the Germans were planning. But here's where the incredible part comes in. The Allies, especially the British, were really clever. They worked day and night to figure out how the Enigma machine worked. They used machines of their own and super smart people, like Alan Turing, to crack the code. Once they did, it was like having a secret key to the German messages. This was a huge deal because it helped the Allies know what the Germans were up to. It allowed them to plan their own moves better and keep people safe. The discovery of the Enigma machine and how to break its code was a game changer in World War II. It's an incredible story of human intelligence and determination that played a big role in helping the Allies win the war. Number 12, blood plasma preservation. You see, blood plasma is the liquid part of our blood that carries essential nutrients, antibodies, and other important substances. When soldiers got injured in battle, they often lost a lot of blood. Without enough blood, a person can die. That's where blood plasma came to the rescue. Doctors and scientists during the war figured out how to collect and store blood plasma so that it could be transported to the front lines and used to treat wounded soldiers. This was a game changer because it meant that injured soldiers could receive life-saving transfusions even in remote areas. One of the key breakthroughs was finding a way to freeze-dry the plasma, turning it into a powder that could be easily stored and transported without spoiling. This powder could then be mixed with water when needed, instantly providing a source of vital nutrients and clotting factors to injured soldiers. This discovery not only saved lives during World War II, but also had a lasting impact on medicine. It paved the way for the development of blood banks and modern transfusion techniques, which continue to save lives today. Number 11, Flight 19. Flight 19 was a group of 5 U.S. Navy planes that disappeared during World War II. It's a mysterious and puzzling event that has captured people's imaginations for decades. On December 5, 1945, these planes took off from a naval base in Florida for a routine training mission. But something went wrong. They got disoriented and their compasses seemed to malfunction. The weather worsened, making it harder to navigate. The leader of Flight 19, Lieutenant Charles Taylor, became confused about their location. As the planes flew further, they got even more lost. Radio communication with them became faint and difficult. The pilots were worried and running low on fuel. Sadly, none of the planes or the 14 crew members were ever found. Some theories suggest they might have ended up in the Bermuda Triangle, a mysterious area in the Atlantic Ocean known for unexplained disappearances. Others think the compasses went haywire because of strange magnetic forces. To this day, the disappearance of Flight 19 remains an unsolved mystery, leaving many people intrigued and wondering about what really happened during that fateful mission. Number 10. Abandoned toxic base in Greenland. In the early 1940s, amid the chaos of World War II, the United States established a secret air base in Greenland. This base, known as Bluey East 2 or East G2, was strategically on the eastern coast of Greenland. Its purpose was to serve as a refueling and maintenance station for aircraft flying between North America and Europe. What makes this base truly incredible is what was left behind after the war. The military personnel stationed there had to deal with extreme cold, isolation, and harsh Arctic conditions. As a result, They left behind various hazardous materials, including fuel drums, chemicals, and even radioactive waste. They simply abandoned these materials when the war ended, buried under the ice and snow. For decades, this toxic legacy lay hidden, frozen in time. It wasn't until the 21st century that researchers and environmentalists uncovered the truth about Bluey East 2. The melting Arctic ice, caused by climate change, revealed the remnants of this forgotten base. The discovery of the abandoned toxic base raised concerns about the environmental impact on the fragile Arctic ecosystem. Toxic substances leaking into the environment could harm the wildlife and pollute the pristine Arctic wilderness. 154. Number 9. Hitler's Bunker. This hidden underground lair in Berlin, Germany, was where Adolf Hitler spent his final days during the closing stages of the war. In April 1945, as the Allied forces advanced on Berlin, Hitler retreated to his underground bunker, which was officially known as the Führer Bunker. This bunker was a heavily fortified structure, designed to withstand bombings and attacks. It was constructed with thick concrete walls and had multiple levels below the ground. Inside the bunker, there were rooms for Hitler and his closest aides, including Eva Braun, his companion. There was also a small conference room, a telephone switchboard, and even a map room where military plans were discussed. It was a cramped and tense space as the Nazis faced imminent defeat. The discovery of the bunker after the war provided valuable insights into the final days of the Nazi regime. It allowed historians to piece together the events leading up to Hitler's suicide on April 30th, 1945. It also revealed the harsh conditions and desperation faced by those inside the bunker as they realized the war was lost. Today, the site of Hitler's bunker is marked by a parking lot, and the actual bunker itself was destroyed in the years following the war. However, the discovery of this underground complex remains a significant historical find, shedding light on the dark chapter of World War II and the end of the Nazi era. Number 8. Sinking of Bismarck. In May 1941, the Bismarck set sail with the goal of disrupting Allied shipping in the Atlantic Ocean. It was a massive and well-armed ship, making it a serious threat to the Allied forces. The British Royal Navy was determined to stop it. After a fierce battle in the Denmark Strait, the British managed to damage the Bismarck and slow it down. It looked like the end was near for the mighty battleship, but then something incredible happened. The British lost track of the Bismarck in the vast ocean. For days, the British searched for the Bismarck, fearing that it would escape and continue its attacks on Allied ships. Finally, a Catalina aircraft spotted the Bismarck, and the British Navy closed in. In another fierce battle, the Bismarck was hit repeatedly. It was clear that the ship was sinking, and its crew had no choice but to abandon it. The British continued to fire on the Bismarck until it disappeared beneath the waves. The sinking of the Bismarck was a momentous discovery for the British and the Allies. It was a symbol of their determination and ability to defeat even the most powerful enemy ships. The discovery of the Bismarck also brought some closure to the people who had been living in fear of its attacks. In the end, the sinking of the Bismarck was not just a military victory, it was a testament to the bravery and tenacity of the Allied forces during World War II. It remains a remarkable chapter in the history of that war and a reminder of the incredible discoveries that can happen during times of conflict. Number 7. USS Yorktown. The USS Yorktown was a big aircraft carrier used by the United States Navy during the war. It played a significant role in important battles like the Battle of the Coral Sea and the Battle of Midway. In June 1942, during the Battle of Midway, the USS Yorktown was hit by Japanese bombers and torpedoes. The damage was so severe that the ship had to be abandoned and was left to sink beneath the ocean waves. For many years, the exact location of the USS Yorktown remained a mystery. But in 1998, a team of underwater explorers led by Robert Ballard, the same person who discovered the Titanic, found the wreck of the USS Yorktown deep in the Pacific Ocean. It was an astonishing discovery because the ship had been lost for over 55 years. The USS Yorktown was found nearly 3 miles below the surface of the ocean, resting on the ocean floor. Despite being underwater for so long, the ship was remarkably well preserved. Explorers found planes on the flight deck, personal items, and even some of the ship's weapons. Number 6. USS Independence. The USS Independence was an aircraft carrier used by the United States Navy. It was a part of many important battles in the Pacific Ocean during World War II. The ship was commissioned in 1943 and served until the end of the war. What makes the USS Independence so remarkable is what happened to it after the war. Instead of being scrapped like many other old ships, the USS Independence was used in nuclear tests. In 1946, it was taken to Bikini Atoll in the Pacific, where the United States conducted nuclear bomb tests. The ship was placed close to the blasts to see how they would affect it. The USS Independence survived not one, but 2 nuclear explosions. This was a testament to the strength and durability of the ship. After the tests, the ship was too contaminated with radiation to be used again, so they towed it out to sea and was deliberately sunk. But the story doesn't end there. In recent years, researchers and divers have discovered the wreckage of the USS Independence on the ocean floor. It's resting peacefully at a depth of about 2,600 feet, 800 meters. Even after all these years, the ship's structure is still mostly intact, and it serves as a living underwater museum of World War II history. Number 5. Graf Zeppelin. This massive airship belonged to Germany, and it was a real marvel of engineering for its time. The Graf Zeppelin was like a huge floating balloon made of metal and fabric. But during the war, the Graf Zeppelin wasn't just used for transportation. It was used for something secret and important: spying. It had cameras and tools to gather information from high in the sky. One day, the Allied forces, the countries fighting against Germany, found out about the secret missions of the Graf Zeppelin. They realized how valuable this information was. They wanted to know what the Germans were planning and where they were sending their airship. So, they made a plan to capture the airship. It was a daring and dangerous mission. They sent skilled soldiers in planes to intercept the Graf Zeppelin. In a dramatic battle high in the sky, the Allies captured the Graf Zeppelin. This was an astonishing victory because it provided the Allies with valuable information about the German plans. The discovery of the secrets hidden in the Graf Zeppelin helped the Allied forces in the war. It showed how important it is to keep searching for new information, even in unexpected places. Number 4. P40 Kittyhawk. The P40 Kittyhawk was a fighter plane used by the Allied forces, especially by the Royal Air Force, RAF, and the American Flying Tigers. It had a distinctive shark-like nose design that made it stand out. This plane was known for its toughness and ability to take a lot of damage and still fly. But what makes this discovery so incredible was how it happened. In 1942, an Australian soldier named Corporal Jack Palmer was exploring the Egyptian desert. He stumbled upon a bunch of buried planes in the sand. These planes turned out to be P40 Kittyhawks that had been buried by Allied forces to keep them safe from enemy attacks. Even though these planes were buried for years, some of them were still in pretty good shape. Mechanics could dig them out, fix them up, and put them back in action. It was like finding buried treasure. The discovery of these buried Kittyhawks gave a big boost to the Allied forces in North Africa. They could use these planes to fight against the Axis powers and gain an advantage in the war. Number 3. Bunker for Churchill's Secret Army. During World War II, one of the most incredible discoveries was a secret bunker used by Churchill's Special Army. This army was a group of brave and skilled individuals who worked undercover to protect their country, led by the famous Winston Churchill. The bunker was hidden underground, designed to be a secret base where the members of this special army could plan and carry out their important missions. It was like a hidden fortress, meant to keep their activities confidential and safe from enemy eyes. Inside the bunker, there were rooms for meetings, communication centers, places to store weapons, and even sleeping quarters. The walls were thick and strong, built to withstand attacks and keep those inside protected. Finding this bunker was a remarkable moment in history. It revealed the dedication and courage of those who fought during World War II, working in the shadows to ensure the safety and freedom of their nation. The discovery of this secret bunker sheds light on the incredible stories of heroism and sacrifice that took place during those challenging times. Number 2. Nazi nuclear weapons in Austria. During World War II, there was a shocking discovery related to the Nazis and nuclear weapons in Austria. Back in those days, the Nazis were a group in power in Germany, and they were trying to build powerful weapons, including a nuclear bomb. This was a kind of bomb that could cause huge explosions and immense damage. In Austria, which is a country in Europe, there were hidden secrets. The Nazis had a secret plan to create nuclear weapons. They were working on something very dangerous in a place called St. Georgen an der Gusen, a hidden underground facility. This secret place was where they were trying to make this terrible weapon. The discovery of this secret facility was a big surprise. After the war, people found out about what the Nazis were trying to do. It was a scary and unbelievable moment in history. The discovery made everyone realize how far the Nazis were willing to go to make devastating weapons. Thankfully, the Allies were able to stop them before they could complete their dangerous mission. Number 1. Yamashitas Gold. During World War II, a tale emerged about Yamashitas Gold. This story is about a legendary treasure that is said to be hidden in the Philippines. General Tomoyuki Yamashita was a famous Japanese military leader during World War II. He was in charge of Japan's forces in the Philippines. As the war went on, Japan started losing. The story goes that before the war ended, General Yamashita hid a vast treasure in the Philippines. The treasure is said to be a collection of gold bars, precious gems, and valuable artifacts. Some people claim it was looted from different places in Asia during the war. After the war, rumors of this hidden treasure spread. Many treasure hunters tried to find it, but the treasure remained elusive. Over the years, people have shared stories of finding hidden tunnels, secret chambers, and artifacts linked to this treasure. However, the exact location of the treasure remains a mystery. While some people believe in the legend of Yamashitas Gold, others think it might just be a story. Regardless, the allure of hidden treasure continues to capture people's imagination, making it one of the fascinating tales from World War II. See you in the next one.